Today we are going to continue our Christmas story. We're reading a little short story called The Elves and the Shoemaker. This is a very, very old story that is by the Brothers Grimm. Let's see, make sure I can see everything. I'll move this over here. And I think everything should be okay. Okay, so today we're going to continue our story called The Elves and the Shoemaker. As I said last time, the Grimm's fairy tales are very famous. These two brothers wrote a lot of fairy tales that we know now, like Rapunzel, who has long hair. I think they wrote Cinderella. There are a lot of different stories from these two. Let me show you where to find these. We've talked about this before. Project Gutenberg. Oh, that went straight to Squirrel Nutkin. Sorry. Gutenberg.org. You can't see the full page, but it's this. Oh, you still can't see that. I'll put it here. Gutenberg.org is a website I think I've showed you before, which is this, Project Gutenberg. It's a library of over 70,000 free books. A lot of them are very old books, so sometimes they're a little bit difficult to read because they're books that are 100 years old, or I think maybe more than 70 years old, become free for everyone. And so on here, if you search Grimm, Grimm, you find Grimm's Fairy Tales. And you click that. You can click Read Online, or if you have a e-reader, it's kind of like an iPad for books. You could get an e-reader version. But I just do Read Online. And then you can see the story right here. And there are lots of different little stories. Which ones do you know? The Frog Prince. That's famous. Rapunzel. Hansel and Gretel. It's about a boy and a girl who meet a witch who tries to eat them. Little Red Cap, which is Little Red Riding Hood now. Tom Thumb, Rumpelstiltskin. Maybe you've heard of these. These are the famous ones. What else? Well, anyways. Snow White and Red Rose. I'm not sure if that's the same Snow White. But this is just some of their stories. They have other fairy tales. But you can see some of these are really famous stories. Now, like I said last time, the way they wrote their fairy tales was a little bit scary. So be careful. They might have something, like there might be a fun version of the fairy tale and then a scary version for the original from the Brothers Grimm. Not really scary, but a little bit more creepy. Like I think in Cinderella, the girl with the glass slipper, like birds attack her evil sisters. So like scary stuff happens. But you could try these three if you want to. Okay. But anyways, that's just some advice if you want to try some other reading from the Brothers Grimm. But we're working on the Elves and the Shoemaker. So let's review what we read before. Maybe we don't need to read through the whole thing, but we'll talk about what happened. Then we'll go to the next part. So, the first part is talking about there's an old shoemaker who is very kind, but he's poor. He has no money. And then he cuts out leather into pieces, puts it on his table, and then in the morning, he wakes up and there's a masterpiece. He sees this beautiful pair of shoes. And a customer came and bought the shoes for a lot of money, and that gave him enough money to make another two pairs of shoes. And then the same thing happened, and he could make 4 pairs of shoes again and again and again. Well, he didn't make them. He cut the leather, and somehow the shoes got made. And then one night, he and his wife decided they want to find out what's happening. And so they saw some naked dwarves. Here it says dwarfs, but I would say dwarves with a V. I'll give you an example of this. Usually it's an F becomes a V, right? Elf becomes elves. Another is wolf becomes wolves. So that's an English rule these days. If a word ends with F, it changes to a V. One more. Can you think of any more? What's behind me? A shelf, and you call them shelves, right? Okay. So, so he noticed that there are some dwarves. So the title is elf, but here it says dwarves. Dwarves and elves are a little bit different, but in this story, who cares? They're almost the same. Little magical people for Christmas. And they are making these shoes, and they're naked. They have no clothes. So that's a little bit awkward. So, next up, maybe we'll read the end of this and then start the next part. Okay. So, I'll just read this part and we can move on to the new part. As soon as it was midnight, there came in 2 little naked dwarfs, and they sat themselves upon the shoemaker's bench and took up all the work that was cut out, and began to ply with their little fingers, stitching and wrapping and tapping away at such a rate that the shoemaker was all wonder and could not take his eyes off them. And on they went, till the job was quite done, and the shoes stood ready for use upon the table. This was long before daybreak, and then they bustled away as quick as lightning. So these naked dwarfs come out from somewhere and make the shoes, and they're stitching, which is like sewing, and wrapping, like maybe hitting with a hammer, and tapping, maybe hitting with their finger, really quickly, and making these shoes, and then poof, they bustle away as quick as lightning, meaning they run away very quickly. They disappeared. Okay, and on to the new part. Okay, it fits okay. On to the new part. The next day, the wife said to the shoemaker, "These little wights have made us rich, and we ought to be thankful to them, and do them a good turn if we can. I am quite sorry to see them run about as they do, and indeed it is not very decent, for they have nothing upon their backs to keep off the cold. I'll tell you what, I will make each of them a shirt, and a coat, and a waistcoat, and a pair of pantaloons into the bargain, and do you make each of them a little pair of shoes. Okay, so the wife has an idea. So the next day, the wife said to the shoemaker, "These little wights have made us rich, and we ought to be thankful to them and do them a good turn if we can." So these little wights have made us rich. Well, you know rich. Rich means they have lots of money, right? Oh, I shouldn't use yellow. We used, is that red? So let's use green this time. It's Christmas time. So rich means they have lots of money. Good. And so this one, whites, is not a common word, but what do you think it could mean? So these little whites have made us rich. Well, here, who are they talking about? They're talking about the dwarves. Sorry, who is she talking about? And so this tells you, even though this is a rare word, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure what this word means too. That's okay. But we know they're talking about the dwarves. A white, if I remember correctly, is like a spirit. Let's look it up. Okay, I was wrong in that. Well, kind of like a spirit. Here's this like creepy monster guy. So maybe in some things they're spirits or ghosts. But here, a person of a specified kind, especially one regarded as unfortunate. So that just means a certain kind of person, so any kind of person, but one kind of person regarded as unfortunate, where people think they're unfortunate. This is probably what she's saying. But here you can see it says archaic. Archaic means very old-fashioned. So very old. People don't really say it anymore. So that's why it's in the story, but it's old-fashioned. I don't even really know what it means. So that's probably what they mean. Some unfortunate person or unlucky person. The reason I said spirit is literary, in books and stuff. A white could be a spirit, a ghost, or other supernatural being. So spirit is like kind of like a ghost, but a ghost is a bad spirit. Or a supernatural being. Supernatural means like a magic creature. So see these pictures, these are whites from like fantasy stories. But in our story, maybe she's talking about a spirit, like they're dwarves, they're magical, or they're supernatural, they're magical. Supernatural means different than regular, more than natural. So special, magical, something like that. So she could mean either one. Okay. Now, these little whites have made us rich. So you can see, like I was saying before, you don't really need to know exactly what it means, but you know she's talking about the dwarves. We ought to be thankful to them. Okay. Ought. We ought to be thankful to them. These two words link together. So it looks like ought to, but you put it together and say ought to. So you only need one T sound, ought to. Now, ought is another way to say should. Or ought to is another way to say should. We should be thankful to them. Oh, come on. So we ought to be thankful to them. We should be thankful to them. It's the right thing to do. Okay. And do them a good turn if we can. Here, a good turn is, well, it's a favor. Do them a favor. Do them a good turn. Again, a good turn is kind of old-fashioned, but you can figure it out. You want to do something good for them. We ought to be thankful. We should be thankful and say, oh, these wonderful dwarves. And do them a good turn. Do them a favor. A favor means something nice or something to help them. So, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you get me a glass of water? That's like, can you just do something nice for me? Or can you do something to help me? It's a good word to know. Good phrase. Oh, Canis asks, what's the difference between spirit and soul? That's a very good question. That's a difficult question. So, spirit and soul both mean like this magical thing that comes from people. Let's see. Spirit is usually when, how do you define spirit versus soul? Okay, well, your soul is like the ghost that lives inside of you. So the idea is that everyone has this energy that is part of your body that makes you who you are. We have our body and our soul. And soul is like, kind of like your ghost that gives you energy. Or gives you life and energy. Okay? So, spirit and soul are almost the same, right? So your soul it emphasizes that it's in your body. It gives you life. Okay? Spirit is kind of the same. It could be in your body, this energy, like soul is kind of like it's you, like the way you think, the way you feel. Your soul is like a part of you, and the spirit is kind of like the energy from that. But when a soul, the important part is that the soul is in your body. And the person's alive. So the person is alive. Okay. And so your soul is in your body, but maybe in a story your soul goes out. But usually that means you're alive. And then your spirit is kind of like your soul, but it's the kind of emphasizes the energy. And then a ghost is what a soul turns into after someone dies. So your soul is in your body. If you die, then your soul goes out into the world and that's your ghost. Okay? So a ghost is someone's soul who's still on earth. They didn't go to heaven or hell. Let's Google these words. Define soul. So, the soul is the spiritual or immaterial part of a human being regarded as immortal. Let's use the Learner's Dictionary. This is a little bit easier. Maybe not. Did they get rid of the Learner's Dictionary? Okay. Here, this one. The spiritual part of a person that is believed to give life to the body, and in many religions is believed to live forever. So, it's like your spirit, but it's part of your body, and it gives life to your body. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, now how about spirit? The non-physical part of a person, which is the seat of emotions and character, the soul. So the dictionary says they're the same, the spirit and soul. Let's see about this dictionary. The force within a person that is believed to give the body life, energy, and power. Okay, so that's kind of fits what I was saying. Soul is in your body and gives you life. Spirit gives you life, energy, and power also. So a little bit more than that. Like your soul is the most important part of you. The spirit is like your energy too. Now, yeah, I think that's enough. I think maybe you get it. The main idea is they're almost the same. But if we're talking about something out of your body, it might be a spirit. A spirit is a magical thing out in the universe. And usually it's friendly. Like, oh, there was a spirit that, I don't know, did something nice. And then ghost is usually bad, usually scary. So soul in your body, if it's out of your body, spirit is friendly, ghost is not so friendly. Okay. Phew. I hope that helps and was not too complicated. Okay. Let's see. Back to the story. We want these little wights, like these little spirits, or let's do a good turn for them. So do them a favor. I am quite sorry to see them run about as they do. Here, sorry doesn't mean like, oh, I'm sorry I did something wrong. It's more like you're a little bit disappointed. So sorry can mean like you feel bad. It doesn't have to be that you did something wrong. It could just be like, oh, that's too bad. And indeed, it is not very decent. In British English, decent means pretty good. In American English, decent means like, fine. But here it means something different. Here it means appropriate. It's not very decent. So, if something is not decent, it's not appropriate. Maybe it's a little bit naughty or dirty. Dirty or naughty. Like, it's not okay. It's kind of rude. Because they're naked. Do you think you want little men running around naked in your house? No, that's not appropriate. It's not very decent. It's like a cute way to say that. It's not very decent, for they have nothing upon their backs to keep off the cold. So nothing, no clothes to keep them warm. I'll tell you what. This is a great phrase to know. I'll put a yellow under it too, because it's excellent phrase. I'll tell you what is a good phrase you can use to just to change from one thing to another or to emphasize. It's the way to start talking to someone or telling them something new. And it announces that you're going to tell them something interesting, like or what you're going to do. I'll tell you what, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. Okay? Or you're giving a decision. You say this before you tell what you decided. Like if you and your friend want to go to a restaurant and you can't decide. You want to eat pizza. I want to eat Korean food. I don't know. How do we figure this out? It's like, I'll tell you what. I'll buy pizza and go to the restaurant and sit with you. And that way we can have both. So I decided something and I'm telling you my idea. Okay? So this is a good phrase to know. I'll tell you what. So I'll tell you what. I will make each of them a shirt and a coat and a waistcoat. And a pair of pantaloons into the bargain. So she's going to make clothes for these dwarves. A shirt, easy peasy. And a coat. A coat is like a long jacket. And a waistcoat. We've talked about this before. A waistcoat, I believe, is like a vest. Yeah. So now we'd say a vest. But the word waistcoat is a British English word. So usually we just say vest. So a shirt, a coat, a waistcoat, and a pair of pantaloons into the bargain. Into the bargain. Bargain is like a deal. Like something you agree upon. So, I agree. I'll give you a shirt, a coat, and a waistcoat. And then, so this means you're doing it as extra. A pair of pantaloons into the bargain. So people might say, I'll throw blah, blah, blah into the bargain. You can't see that. Give me a second. So if you're making a deal, if you're negotiating with someone, and they give you something extra, they use this phrase. So you're buying pizza and they say, okay, your pizza will be $10 and each topping will be an extra $2. So you say, okay, I'll have a pizza with peppers and onion. That's enough. And the guy making the pizza says, okay, that's $14. How about this? I'll throw mushrooms into the bargain. So that means you get the pizza with peppers and onions, and mushrooms are for free. He throws it in for free. So the woman says, I'll make each of them a shirt and a coat and a waistcoat and a pair of pantaloons into the bargain. So yeah, pantaloons as an extra. So this is a good phrase to know. I'll throw something into the bargain. You hear this at stores when you're buying stuff. But what are pantaloons? Pantaloons are old-fashioned pants. So they're puffy pants that people would wear. Kind of like that. But people now just wear pants, but pantaloons sounds like you're from the year 1800. Okay? And then, and do you make each of them a little pair of shoes? This seems kind of strange because do you sounds like it should be a question. But this is old-fashioned again. So the do is just saying, is emphasizing. Do you make each of them a little pair of shoes? She's telling him to say that. But in modern English, don't use that do. Okay? So she's going to make them clothes. He will make them little pairs of shoes. Okay? You make each of them a little pair of shoes. So make a little pair of shoes for each dwarf. So one by one by one. Every dwarf will get a pair of shoes. Okay, let me skip ahead. I think I'm going slowly, so talking way too much detail. I hope you like it. Let's see how much we can do, and we can see if we can finish it or if we want to save it for next time. I think maybe, because I'm slow, we might just do this, but we'll see. Okay. So the wife is going to make clothes. The husband is going to make shoes for the dwarves. The thought pleased the good cobbler very much. And one evening, when all the things were ready, they laid them on the table. Instead of the work that they used to cut out, they went and hid themselves to watch what the little elves would do. So the thought pleased the very good cobbler very much. So pleased means to make someone happy. The thought made the cobbler happy. So that's how we use the word pleased. Thought meaning idea. The simple way to say this would be made someone happy. So the idea pleased the good cobbler. The thought made the cobbler happy. Okay? The thought pleased the good cobbler very much. And one evening, when all the things were ready, they laid them out on the table. Laid them out on the table. So they cut everything and again put it on the table. They lay it on the table. This is past tense of lay. Which means put down. So you put the stuff down on the table, flat. So instead of the work that they used to cut out. Here, used to means they did it before, right? So instead of what they used to cut out, they put all the new things, all the little pieces they cut. And then went and hid themselves to watch what the little elves would do. I think that's pretty straightforward. About midnight they came in, dancing and skipping, hopped round the room, and then went to sit down to their work as usual. But when they saw the clothes lying for them, they laughed and chuckled and seemed mightily delighted. So, about midnight, in they came. So, about. We talked about this before. About means close to. Close to midnight they came. Maybe a little bit before, maybe a little bit after, but close to midnight. Now, remember, when is midnight? Midnight does not mean the middle of the night. Midnight means 12:00 a.m. So midnight is a precise time. Same thing with noon. Noon is 12:00 p.m. which if someone says noon, they don't mean between 12 and 1. If someone says noon, they mean 12:00. So don't be late. Okay. So about midnight, in they came. Again, we said that this is the same as they came in, but old-fashioned. Or not old-fashioned, maybe more like in a book. In they came, dancing and skipping. You know dancing. Skipping is like walking and jumping at the same time. You're jumping to move. Go on YouTube and Google search for skipping if you don't know what it means to skip. It's like you're jumping with one foot at a time and you're moving forward. They hopped round the room. To hop is a little jump. I'll put it here. Skipping is like jumping to run. Like you jump a little bit and it makes you kind of run. But it looks happy. They hopped around the room, then went to sit down to their work as usual. So they went to sit down to their work. This means you sit down and start your work. Okay? As usual, which is what they usually do. Like normal. But when they saw the clothes lying for them, they laughed and chuckled and seemed mightily delighted. Remember we said that the man and the woman laid the things on the table. So that means the pieces are lying on the table. So lay means put it down. Lie means it is down and staying there. So the two words lay and lie are almost the same. Americans forget which is which, so don't worry about it. But the clothes were lying for them. They're sitting there on the table. It's lay versus lie. It's not important. English speaker, native Americans forget the which is which, so don't worry about it. They saw the clothes, and then they laughed and chuckled. A chuckle is a very happy laugh, like a small laugh, like hoo 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 hoo. So laugh is like ha 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 ha. A chuckle is like a small laugh. Hoo 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 hoo. Okay? And they seemed mightily delighted. Delighted means happy, right? Mightily delighted. You can guess this is another way to say very. Kind of British style of saying very. They're mightily delighted. American style, you'd say really delighted, really happy, extremely pleased. Something like that. Okay. And then they dressed themselves in the twinkling of an eye and danced and capered and sprang about, as merry as could be, till at last they danced out at the door and away over the green. So, the dwarves are very happy. Then they dressed themselves in the twinkling of an eye. I'll underline all of it. What does this mean? They dressed themselves in the twinkling of an eye. Okay, twinkle is kind of like sparkle. It's like a little light, and a light that moves a little bit. So can you think of any lights that move a little bit? A sparkle is a little bit bigger, but a twinkle is a very small change of light. This is a word for stars. So when you look at the stars, there's light, but the light changes a little bit. It moves a little bit. So we say, twinkle, twinkle, little star. Now, if you look at someone's eyes, it looks like there's light moving a little bit. And so a twinkle in someone's eye is like there's light in their eye. And that usually means they have an idea or something like that. He had a twinkle in his eye means that twinkle in someone's eye is kind of like an idea. They have an idea. But here we're not talking about an idea. We're just talking about the speed of something. So in the twinkling of an eye, if you see a little light in someone's eye, it's super fast. So this phrase, in the twinkling of an eye, just means in a moment or very quickly is the simple way to say it. Okay? I'll move this over. Twinkle is a small sparkle. Let's say that. And then I'll put that here because we've been doing that. So they dressed themselves in the twinkling of an eye. Super fast. And danced and capered and sprang about. Well, you know dance. Capered. I'm not 100% sure. I forget. And sprang about. Sprang is kind of like a spring. A spring is a thing that's metal that goes like around. Now, what does that do? It bounces. Boing, boing. So to spring about is to jump around. Like boing, boing. They're very excited. Now, what about caper? Capered means to skip or dance about in a lively or playful way. So this is something I'm not completely sure, but you could say, okay, they're dancing, they sprang about, they're jumping around. So what do you think caper is? It's another word that means they're moving in a happy way. If I don't know the word, you don't need to know the word. But it means to dance or skip or dance in a lively or playful way, in a happy way. Children were capering about the room. No one says that. Don't worry. So they danced and capered and sprang about. Like boing, 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 very happy. As merry as could be. You probably know the word merry. Merry Christmas. What's another way to say Merry Christmas? Well, in England, some people say Happy Christmas. Americans only say Merry Christmas. English people sometimes say Happy Christmas because merry and happy are the same. So, as merry as could be. This phrase, as blah, 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 as could be, means just very, very, very. They're very merry. They're very happy. Okay? Till at last they danced out the door. At last means in the end. So they're very, very happy. Wow, wow, wow. And then they danced out the door. They danced out at the door. This is maybe old-fashioned, but now you'd not say at. We would say out of the door. Or just, I'll add the word out. Out of the door or just out the door. They danced out the door is the modern way to say this. And away over the green. They danced away over the green. They danced out the door and away over the green. What does that sound like? Well, green means like a field of grass. So maybe it's like just there's grass outside or a park or something like that. But so they gave clothes to these elves and shoes to these elves, and they danced and danced and danced and just went away. And bye. See you. The good couple saw them no more, but everything went well with them from that time forward, as long as they lived. The end. So the good couple saw them no more. Remember, couple means two or a pair of something. So a couple means like two people who are in a relationship. I'm being vague about that, like not very clear, because there are many different kinds of couples. A couple could be a man and a woman. It could be a man and a wife, or a husband and a wife. It could be a boyfriend and a girlfriend. It could be a boyfriend and a boyfriend. It could be a husband and a husband. It could be a wife and a wife. All of these are couples. It's just two people together. So two people in a relationship. They could be married. They could be not. They're just together. They're partners. Okay? So the good couple saw them no more. Here we just say the good, meaning the nice couple. That would be like a more... The good couple's a little bit old-fashioned again. Maybe the nice couple is what I'd say. Keep it simple. How about like this? The good couple saw them no more. This is an old-fashioned, or not old-fashioned, but it's in books, like we said a bunch of times. Never saw them again would be a modern way to say that. The couple never saw them again. So the dwarves or elves danced away, and the couple never saw them again. The couple saw them no more. But everything went well with them from that time forward. We use but because it shows there's something different than what you expect. The couple never saw them again. You might go, oh no, they'll start losing money again. They'll be in trouble. Nope, everything's okay. It's bad that the elves are gone, but something's okay anyways. So the couple saw them no more, but everything went well with them. So everything went well just means life is good. They're making money, they're doing business, they're happy, whatever. So everything went well with them from that time forward. Another way to say this is from then on. That's another good phrase to know. I'll put it here. That means starting at that place and then going into the future. Okay? Another way would just be, you could say like after that. It's a simple way, but it's not as clear. From then on means it starts at that moment and then continues. After that means it's just after and going forward. So from then on is a good phrase. From that time forward is pretty good too. As long as they lived, meaning for the rest of their lives. Okay. So what this means is the elves disappeared, they went off, but everything was good for the couple for the rest of their lives. So everything was great. So the elves or dwarves helped the couple. They helped them make shoes, and then they started their business, maybe because the elves helped them save time. They were able to sell more shoes, and they stopped being poor. They became happy. And so the elves gave them a gift of like kindness. And so the husband and wife, they did something nice for the elves. That's the Christmas part of it. They gave them a gift of clothes and shoes, and then after that, everyone was happy. So that's kind of the moral of the story. Why this is a Christmas story is because you give gifts to people you care about, you help people around you, and then everyone is happy together. Okay, so let's go back and practice what we read, what we talked deeply about today. So, last time we saw that the elves showed up and they were naked, right? And then from here on, what we did today is how are they going to help the elves? So, the next day, the wife said to the shoemaker, "These little wights have made us rich, and we ought to be thankful to them and do them a good turn if we can. I am quite sorry to see them run about as they do. And indeed, it is not very decent, for they have nothing upon their backs to keep off the cold. I'll tell you what, I will make each of them a shirt, and a coat, and a waistcoat, and a pair of pantaloons into the bargain. And do you make each of them a little pair of shoes." The thought pleased the good cobbler very much, and one evening, when all the things were ready, they laid them on the table instead of the work they used to cut out. And they went and hid themselves to watch what the little elves would do. About midnight in they came, dancing and skipping, hopped round the room, and then went to sit down to their work as usual. But when they saw the clothes lying for them, they laughed and chuckled and seemed mightily delighted. Then they dressed themselves in the twinkling of an eye, and danced and capered and sprang about, as merry as could be, till at last they danced out at the door and away over the green. The good couple saw them no more, but everything went well with them from that time forward, as long as they lived. The end. So that is the end of The Elves and the Shoemaker by the Brothers Grimm. And so, like we said, it's a Christmas story. It's kind of cute. It's pretty simple. Well, the English is not simple, but the story is pretty simple. The elves help the cobbler and his wife. The cobbler and his wife help the elves by making them clothes and shoes. And so everybody's happy. And that's the important part of Christmas, right? Giving gifts to people so everyone can have a good time and be happy together. Okay, so let's stop here. I hope you had a good time today. I hope you learned a lot. I hope it wasn't too difficult. So thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful week. So thanks a lot. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.